Sunday mornings always followed the same pattern in the Roberts household. The alarm would ring at 7:30 a.m., and by 9:15, the family of four would be dressed in their Sunday best, ready to attend the 10 a.m. service at Greenfield Community Church. This particular Sunday seemed like any other. The autumn air felt crisp as 12-year-old Adam Roberts stood on the front porch, waiting for his parents and younger sister to finish getting ready. He watched fallen leaves dance across their front yard, swirling in small circles before settling again on the damp grass. "Adam, don't forget your Bible," his mother called from inside. Catherine Roberts was always meticulous about these things. A tall woman with kind eyes, she believed strongly in routines and traditions, especially when it came to their weekly church attendance. Adam ran back inside to grab his Bible from the coffee table. His father, Michael, was helping 8-year-old Emily tie her shoes while checking his watch. They were running a few minutes behind schedule. "Everyone ready?" Michael asked, picking up the car keys. "Pastor Wilson mentioned he has something special planned for the youth group today." The family piled into their blue sit-in, with Adam sitting quietly in the back seat next to his sister, who couldn't stop talking about the new dress she was wearing. Adam normally would have teased her or at least joined the conversation, but today he seemed distant, staring out the window as houses and trees passed by. "You okay, buddy?" his father asked, catching Adam's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Yeah, just tired," Adam replied with a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. The church parking lot was already filling up when they arrived. The Roberts family had been attending Greenfield Community Church for over 8 years, since shortly after moving to town. Everyone knew everyone. As they walked toward the entrance, several familiar faces greeted them. "Good morning, Catherine, Michael." Mrs. Peterson waved from the church steps. "Adam, Emily, the other children are gathering in the fellowship hall before service. Pastor Wilson's nephew is visiting today and will be helping with youth activities." Adam's shoulders tensed slightly at this information. His mother didn't notice as she ushered him and Emily through the large wooden doors of the church. The main sanctuary smelled of polished wood and old hymnals. Sunlight filtered through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the worn carpet. The family took their usual seats in the middle section, 5 rows from the front. During the opening hymns, Catherine noticed Adam wasn't singing along as he usually did. Instead, he kept glancing toward the side door where the youth pastor stood. When it came time for the children to leave for their separate youth service, Adam hesitated. "Mom, I don't feel good. Can I stay here with you?" he whispered. Catherine felt his forehead with the back of her hand. "You don't have a fever, honey. I think you'll be fine with the other kids. You always enjoy the youth activities." Adam looked like he wanted to say more, but instead nodded reluctantly and followed the other children out the side door. Catherine watched him go, a small feeling of unease settling in her stomach. Something about her normally enthusiastic son seemed off today, but she couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. The adult service continued with Pastor Wilson's sermon about community and trust. Catherine found herself struggling to concentrate, her thoughts repeatedly drifting to Adam's unusual behavior. Michael seemed to notice her distraction and squeezed her hand reassuringly. Little did Catherine know that what would happen after church that day would change their family forever. The youth room in the church basement was brightly decorated with colorful posters of Bible verses and children's artwork. Usually, Adam enjoyed these Sunday sessions, with their games and simple lessons. But today, his eyes kept darting to the unfamiliar man standing near Pastor Wilson. "Children, this is my nephew Marcus," Pastor Wilson announced with a broad smile. "He's visiting for a few weeks and has kindly offered to help with our youth activities." Marcus was tall and thin with dark hair and a smile that seemed friendly enough. He wore a button-up shirt and khaki pants that made him look like any other church volunteer. When he waved at the group, several children waved back enthusiastically. Adam merely nodded, feeling strangely uncomfortable. "Today we're going to split into small groups," Pastor Wilson continued. "The younger children will stay with me for a craft project, while the older ones will go with Marcus to discuss last week's lesson." Adam's stomach tightened as he realized he would be in Marcus's group. He considered asking to join the younger kids instead, but didn't want to draw attention to himself. Reluctantly, he followed as Marcus led 8 children, all between 11 and 13 years old, to a smaller classroom down the hall. "Let's arrange our chairs in a circle," Marcus instructed, his voice friendly and calm. That way we can all see each other better." The room had no windows, only fluorescent lights that hummed overhead. Adam chose a seat near the door, not sure why he felt so nervous. Marcus closed the door once everyone was seated, explaining that it would help them focus without distractions. "So, who remembers what last week's lesson was about?" Marcus asked. Several hands shot up, but Adam kept his down, focusing on the Bible in his lap. The discussion began normally enough, with Marcus asking questions and the children answering. About 15 minutes into the session, Marcus announced they would play a game. "I need a volunteer to help me demonstrate," he said, scanning the circle. His eyes landed on Adam. "How about you, Adam, right?" Adam reluctantly raised his head. "Yes, sir." "No need for sir. Just call me Marcus," he said with a laugh. "Come up here for a minute." Adam's legs felt heavy as he stood and walked to the front of the circle. The other children watched with interest, unaware of his discomfort. "This game is about trust," Marcus explained, placing a hand on Adam's shoulder. "In the Bible, we learn about trusting God and trusting each other." What happened next confused Adam. Marcus led him to a small supply closet at the back of the room, saying he needed help getting some materials. Once inside, with the door partially closed, Marcus's friendly demeanor changed subtly. "You seem like a special kid, Adam," Marcus said quietly, his hand still on Adam's shoulder but now squeezing a little too hard. "I could use your help with something important after church, but it needs to be our secret for now." Adam felt frozen as Marcus leaned closer, whispering things that made him increasingly uncomfortable. The words were vague but somehow threatening, mixed with comments about Adam being chosen and special. When Marcus's hand moved from his shoulder to the back of his neck, Adam finally found his voice. "I think I should go back to my seat now," he stammered. Marcus's expression flickered between anger and concern before settling into a smile again. "Of course, but remember, this is just between us. If you tell anyone about our special friendship, no one will believe you. Pastor Wilson is my uncle, after all." They returned to the circle, where Marcus continued the lesson as if nothing had happened. Adam sat silently, no longer hearing the Bible discussion around him. His mind was racing, trying to understand what had just occurred. When the session ended and it was time to rejoin their parents for the final hymn, Adam walked slowly behind the group. Marcus caught his eye one last time and pressed a finger to his lips in a silent reminder. Adam had never felt so alone in a room full of people. Back in the main sanctuary, Adam slipped into his seat beside his mother. Catherine immediately noticed the change in her son. His normally bright eyes seemed distant, and the color had drained from his face. She leaned over to whisper in his ear, "Are you feeling all right, sweetheart?" Adam nodded quickly without looking at her. His hands were clasped tightly in his lap, knuckles white with tension. Catherine frowned but turned her attention back to Pastor Wilson, who was closing the service with final announcements. "And remember, our special youth activities will continue all month with my nephew Marcus helping out," Pastor Wilson said cheerfully. "We're blessed to have him with us. Please make him feel welcome." At the mention of Marcus's name, Catherine felt Adam stiffen beside her. She glanced down and saw his breathing had quickened. Something was definitely wrong, but the crowded church wasn't the place to ask. After the final hymn, the congregation began to move toward the exits, stopping to chat in small groups along the way. Normally, the Roberts family would join in this social time, with Michael discussing the week's football games with other fathers while Catherine caught up with the women's group. The children would run around the church grounds with their friends. Today, however, Adam stayed glued to his mother's side, flinching when anyone came too close. When Marcus appeared at the church entrance, greeting people with Pastor Wilson, Adam tugged urgently on his mother's sleeve. "Can we go home now? Please," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Catherine looked down at her son, concern etched across her face. "Michael," she called to her husband, who was deep in conversation with the church treasurer, "I think we need to head home. Adam isn't feeling well." Michael glanced at his watch and nodded. "Let me just grab Emily. She's playing with the Johnsons' daughter." As they waited, Catherine noticed Marcus approaching them, his smile wide and friendly. "Hello there. You must be Adam's parents. I'm Marcus, Pastor Wilson's nephew." Before Catherine could reply, Adam's grip on her hand became painfully tight. She looked down to see pure fear on her son's face. "Yes, I'm Catherine Roberts," she replied, her maternal instincts on high alert. "We need to be heading home now. Adam isn't feeling well." Marcus's eyes flickered to Adam, something unreadable passing across his face. "I'm sorry to hear that. Adam was such a help during our youth session today, a very special boy." The way he said special sent a chill down Catherine's spine, though she couldn't explain why. "Well, nice to meet you," she said curtly, relief washing over her as she saw Michael returning with Emily. The drive home was unusually quiet. Emily chattered about her Sunday school craft project, but Adam stared out the window, not responding even when directly addressed. Michael and Catherine exchanged concerned glances in the rearview mirror. "Maybe he's coming down with something," Michael suggested quietly. When they arrived home, Adam went straight to his room while Emily helped her father prepare lunch. Catherine followed Adam upstairs after a few minutes, knocking gently on his door. "Adam, can I come in?" There was no answer, but she opened the door anyway. Adam sat on the edge of his bed, still in his church clothes, staring at the floor. He hadn't even taken off his shoes. "Honey, what's wrong?" Catherine asked, sitting beside him. "You can tell me anything, you know that." Adam remained silent, his hands twisting in his lap. "Did something happen at church today?" she pressed gently. Adam's eyes filled with tears, but he quickly wiped them away. "I don't want to go back," he finally whispered. "To church? Why not?" "I just don't," he said, his voice breaking slightly. Catherine put her arm around his shoulders, alarmed when he initially tensed at her touch before leaning into her embrace. "Lunch is almost ready," she said after a moment. "Why don't you change your clothes and come down when you're ready? We can talk more later if you want." Adam nodded, and Catherine reluctantly left the room, her mind racing with questions she couldn't answer. Whatever had happened at church today had profoundly affected her son, and she was determined to find out what it was. Sunday lunch in the Roberts household was usually filled with lively discussion about the sermon or plans for the week ahead. Today, an uncomfortable silence hung over the dining table. Michael tried to keep the conversation going, talking about an upcoming work project, while Emily shared stories about her friends. Catherine barely touched her food, her eyes constantly drifting to Adam, who sat pushing mashed potatoes around his plate without eating. "Adam, you've hardly eaten anything," Michael finally said. "Are you sure you're not coming down with something?" Adam shrugged without looking up. "Not hungry." After lunch, Emily went to her room to play with her dolls, and Michael settled in the living room with the Sunday newspaper. Catherine began clearing the table, her mind preoccupied with Adam's strange behavior. When he stood to take his plate to the kitchen, she noticed his hands were trembling slightly. "Why don't you go rest for a bit?" she suggested gently. "I'll bring you some juice later." Adam nodded and headed upstairs. Catherine watched him go, his shoulders hunched and steps heavy, so different from his usual energetic bounce. She finished cleaning the kitchen quickly, then made her way to his bedroom, carrying a glass of apple juice, his favorite. She knocked softly. When there was no answer, she pushed the door open and found Adam sitting on the floor beside his bed, knees pulled up to his chest. He was staring at his phone, but wasn't actually using it. "I brought you some juice," Catherine said, setting the glass on his nightstand. Instead of leaving, she sat down on the edge of his bed. "Adam, I know something's bothering you. Did someone say something unkind at church today?" Adam shook his head, still not looking at her. "Did you get in trouble during youth group?" Another head shake. Catherine sighed, trying a different approach. "You know, when I was about your age, there was a girl at my school who used to make fun of my glasses. I was too embarrassed to tell anyone for weeks. But when I finally told my mom, she helped me handle the situation, and things got better." This story, which had always worked to get Adam talking in the past, yielded no response. Catherine reached out and gently touched his shoulder. "Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." Adam finally looked up, his eyes red-rimmed, as if he'd been crying. He opened his mouth but closed it again, unable to find words. "Is it about Pastor Wilson's nephew?" Catherine asked softly, remembering Adam's reaction to Marcus. Adam's sharp intake of breath confirmed her suspicion. His face strained of color, and his hands began trembling more visibly. "Did he do something that made you uncomfortable?" she pressed, keeping her voice calm despite the growing unease in her stomach. Adam's eyes darted to the door, as if checking that no one else could hear them. When he spoke, His voice was barely audible. He said it was a secret. Catherine felt a chill run through her body. What kind of secret, honey? Adam struggled to continue. He took me to the supply closet, said I was special. That he? His voice broke off. Catherine slid from the bed to the floor, sitting next to Adam, but careful not to crowd him. It's okay, take your time. He touched my shoulder and neck, said weird things. Adam's voice was so quiet now that Catherine had to lean closer to hear. He said if I told anyone, no one would believe me because he's Pastor Wilson's nephew. Catherine fought to keep her expression neutral despite the anger and fear surging through her. Adam, I want you to know something very important. I will always believe you. Always. And what he did was wrong. Adam looked up at her, tears finally spilling over. He said he needs my help after church next Sunday. Said I have to come alone to the storage room. His entire body was shaking now. Mom, I don't want to go back there. Catherine wrapped her arms around her son, letting him cry against her shoulder. You won't have to, sweetheart. I promise. When Adam finally pulled away, he looked directly into her eyes and whispered 4 words that made Catherine's face turn pale. He does it to others. Catherine sat frozen on Adam's bedroom floor, her son's 4 devastating words echoing in her mind. He does it to others. Her maternal instinct screamed for immediate action, but she forced herself to remain outwardly calm for Adam's sake. How do you know this, sweetheart? She asked, keeping her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Adam wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I heard him talking to Tyler after our group. Said the same things to him about being special and needing private help. Tyler looked scared, just like I felt. Catherine took a deep breath, carefully choosing her next words. Adam, you've done nothing wrong. In fact, you've been very brave telling me this. She gently took his hands in hers. We need to tell Dad what happened, and then we need to make sure Tyler and the other kids are safe. Fear flashed across Adam's face, but Marcus said no one would believe me. He said Pastor Wilson would take his side because they're family. That's not true, Catherine said firmly. Your dad and I will always believe you, and what Marcus did was wrong, no matter who his uncle is. She helped Adam to his feet and guided him downstairs. Michael looked up from his newspaper, his expression changing instantly when he saw their faces. What's going on? He asked, setting the paper aside. Michael, we need to talk, Catherine said. Adam has something important to tell you. They sat together on the couch, Adam between his parents. With gentle encouragement from Catherine, Adam repeated what had happened in the church supply closet. As he spoke, Michael's face hardened, his jaw clenched tightly to control his anger. When Adam finished, Michael put his arm around his son's shoulders. Son, I'm so proud of you for telling us. That took real courage. What do we do now? Adam asked in a small voice. Michael and Catherine exchanged looks over Adam's head, a silent communication born from years of marriage. First, we call the police, Michael said decisively. What Marcus did is not just wrong. It's illegal. Will I have to talk to them? Adam asked, fear creeping back into his voice. Yes, Catherine answered honestly, but Dad and I will be with you the whole time. Michael stood up. I'm also calling Pastor Wilson. He needs to know what his nephew is doing in his church. What about Tyler and the other kids? Adam asked. Catherine gave her son a gentle squeeze. The police will make sure they're all safe. That's their job. While Michael made the calls, Catherine made hot chocolate for Adam, a small comfort in the midst of turmoil. She watched him carefully, noting how his shoulders remained tense, his eyes darting occasionally to the windows as if expecting Marcus to appear. Will I get in trouble for telling? Adam asked suddenly. Catherine knelt in front of him. Absolutely not. You did exactly the right thing. Some adults, like Marcus, try to make children keep bad secrets. But there's a difference between good secrets, like surprise birthday presents, and bad secrets that make you feel scared or uncomfortable. Michael returned to the living room, his expression grim. The police are sending someone over now. Pastor Wilson was shocked, to say the least. Did he believe you? Catherine asked quietly, mindful of Adam listening. Michael's face was unreadable. He said he needed time to process it. His exact words were, Marcus has always been a model young man. Catherine felt a flash of anger. Well, he better start believing it. This isn't something Adam would make up. The police will sort it out, Michael assured her. They're taking it very seriously. Adam looked up at his parents. What will happen to Marcus? Catherine and Michael exchanged another glance. How much should they explain to their 12-year-old about predatory behavior and the justice system? The police will investigate, Catherine finally said. They'll talk to you and the other children. If Marcus has been hurting kids, you'll face consequences. The doorbell rang, making all three of them jump. Michael placed a reassuring hand on Adam's shoulder. That's probably the police officer. Remember, Adam, just tell them exactly what you told us. The truth is all that matters. As Michael went to answer the door, Catherine hugged her son tightly. You're the bravest boy I know, she whispered. And we're going to get through this together. Officer Elena Martinez sat across from Adam at the dining room table. With her kind eyes and gentle voice, she didn't look like what Adam had expected a police officer to be. She wore a regular police uniform, but had removed her hat and utility belt, setting them aside to appear less intimidating. Adam, I know this is difficult, Officer Martinez said, but I need you to tell me exactly what happened today at church. Take your time and try to remember as many details as you can. Catherine sat next to Adam, her hand resting supportively on his arm. Michael stood by the doorway, his face tense as he listened to his son repeat the story for the third time that day. And you believe other children might have had similar experiences? Officer Martinez asked when Adam finished. Adam nodded. I saw him talking to Tyler the same way, and there was a younger boy last week who came out of the supply closet crying, but everyone thought he was just homesick. Officer Martinez made notes in her small notebook. You're being very brave, Adam. The information you're giving us is really important. What happens next? Catherine asked, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. I'll file my report immediately, Officer Martinez explained. We'll contact Pastor Wilson and the church board to prevent any further contact between Marcus and the children. We'll also need to speak with the other children and their parents. Michael stepped forward. I already called Pastor Wilson. He seemed reluctant to believe the accusations. Officer Martinez's expression hardened slightly. Unfortunately, that's a common initial reaction. People don't want to believe someone they trust could do something like this. But our department takes these reports very seriously. She turned back to Adam. Would you recognize the other children who might have had contact with Marcus? Adam nodded. I know most of the kids in my youth group. That's helpful, Officer Martinez said. But you won't have to identify them in person. We have specially trained officers who handle these kinds of cases with children. After Officer Martinez left, promising to call with updates, the Roberts family sat together in the living room. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken emotions. Emily, who had been watching TV in her room during the police interview, joined them, sensing something was wrong but not understanding what. Why was a police officer here? She asked, climbing onto the couch between her parents. Catherine and Michael exchanged looks, silently debating how much to share with their 8-year-old daughter. There was a problem at church today, Michael finally said. Adam noticed something wrong and told us about it, like a good brother should. Emily looked at Adam with newfound respect, like a superhero. Despite everything, Adam managed a small smile. Not really a superhero. I was scared. Even superheroes get scared, Emily insisted. That's what makes them brave. The phone rang, breaking the moment. Michael answered it, his expression growing increasingly concerned as he listened. When he hung up, he looked at Catherine with a grim expression. That was Pastor Wilson, he said. He wanted to let us know that Marcus has disappeared. He packed his things and left while Pastor Wilson was out making calls to the church board. Catherine gasped. You ran. That's practically an admission of guilt. Michael nodded. Pastor Wilson finally seems to understand the seriousness of the situation. He's devastated and wants to come over to speak with us and Adam directly. No, Catherine said firmly, putting a protective arm around Adam. Not today. Adam has been through enough. Adam looked up at his parents. Will they catch him? The police are very good at their job, Michael reassured him, though his voice lacked complete conviction. Officer Martinez will make finding him a priority. As evening fell, The family ordered pizza instead of cooking, none of them having the energy for normal Sunday activities. After dinner, Adam finally seemed to relax a little, even joining Emily for a board game. Catherine watched her children from the kitchen doorway, her heart aching for the innocence that had been damaged today. Michael wrapped his arms around her from behind. "He's going to be okay," he whispered. "We caught this early. We believed him immediately. Those are the most important things." Catherine leaned back against her husband's chest. "I keep thinking about the other children. What if their parents don't believe them? What if Marcus has done this before, in other places?" Michael tightened his embrace. "One step at a time. Tomorrow, we'll do whatever it takes to help the investigation and support Adam. Tonight, let's just be grateful he trusted us enough to tell us the truth." Monday morning arrived with a sense of unreality. Catherine had barely slept, her mind replaying Adam's words over and over. Michael had spent half the night on the phone, first with Officer Martinez, who confirmed Marcus was officially missing, then with Pastor Wilson, who was devastated by the betrayal and the potential harm to children in his congregation. By 7 a.m., Catherine was in the kitchen making pancakes, trying to create some sense of normalcy. Michael joined her, his eyes red from lack of sleep. "I called work," he said quietly. "Taking a few days off to be home with Adam." Catherine nodded. "I'm thinking we should keep him home from school today, let things settle a bit." As if on cue, Adam appeared in the doorway, already dressed in his school uniform. His expression was determined, though shadows under his eyes revealed his own restless night. "I want to go to school," he said firmly. "I don't want to stay home and think about it all day." Catherine and Michael exchanged surprised glances. "Are you sure, honey?" Catherine asked. Adam nodded. "Tyler will be at school. I need to talk to him." Michael frowned slightly. "Adam, the police asked us not to discuss the case with other potential victims. They need to handle those interviews carefully." "I won't talk about the details," Adam promised. "I just want to make sure he's okay. And," he hesitated, "I want to tell them I believe him, even if no one else does yet." Catherine felt a swell of pride through her worry. Her son, despite his trauma, was thinking of others. "All right," she agreed. "But I'm driving you today instead of you taking the bus. And I want you to call me if you feel overwhelmed at any point." Breakfast was quieter than usual, even Emily sensing the need for calm. As they were finishing, the phone rang. Michael answered, his expression changing from concern to surprise. "Yes, he's here. Just a moment." He held out the phone to Adam. "It's for you, Officer Martinez." Adam took the phone nervously. "Hello." The family watched as he listened, his eyes widening. "Really? That's good. Yes, I'm okay. Thank you for telling me." When he hung up, there was a hint of relief on his face. They found Marcus. He was trying to buy a bus ticket to leave the state. "Thank God," Catherine breathed. The news that Marcus was in custody lifted a weight she hadn't realized was pressing so heavily on her chest. "Officer Martinez said they need me to come to the station sometime today to make an official statement," Adam continued. And he hesitated, looking at his parents. They found pictures on Marcus's phone of kids from other churches where he's visited before. Catherine felt sick. Michael's hand tightened around his coffee mug until his knuckles turned white. "So it wasn't just our church," Michael said quietly. Adam shook his head. "Officer Martinez said I helped stop him from hurting more kids. She called me brave." "You are brave," Emily piped up from her spot at the table. "The bravest brother ever." For the first time since yesterday, Adam smiled, a small, fragile thing, but real nonetheless. The drive to school was quiet. Catherine watched Adam in the rearview mirror, noting how he sat straighter, somehow older than he had been just 2 days ago. When they arrived, she turned to face him. "Remember, you can call me anytime and I'll come get you." Adam nodded. "I know, Mom." He hesitated, then added, "Thank you for believing me right away. Officer Martinez said that doesn't always happen." Catherine swallowed the lump in her throat. "We'll always believe you, Adam. Always." As she watched him walk into school, she noticed him spot Tyler near the entrance. The two boys made eye contact, and something unspoken passed between them. Tyler looked confused, then relieved when Adam approached him. They didn't hug or make a scene, just stood together for a moment before heading inside. Catherine sat in her car long after the school bell rang, thinking about the children whose parents might not believe them, the churches that might try to protect their reputation over their most vulnerable members, and the courage it took for one 12-year-old boy to speak four simple words that brought a predator's actions into the light. Finally, she started the car, a new determination setting in. This wasn't over, not for Adam, not for Tyler, not for any of the children affected. But the truth was out now, and with it came the first possibility of healing. 6 months had passed since that fateful Sunday. Robert's family sat together in their living room, a sense of cautious peace settling around them. Outside, spring flowers pushed through the soil, a fitting metaphor for the new beginnings they were all experiencing. The investigation into Marcus had revealed a pattern of predatory behavior spanning 3 years and 4 different churches across 2 states. Thanks to Adam's courage in speaking up, 17 children had come forward with their stories. Marcus now awaited trial, having been denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges. For the Roberts family, the journey had been difficult but transformative. They had switched to a different church, one with transparent policies about child protection and strict screening for all volunteers. At first, Adam had been reluctant to attend any church, but with time and the gentle support of his parents, he found his way back to a faith community that felt safe. "Adam, could you help me with these photo albums?" Catherine asked, bringing in a box from the hallway. "I thought we could organize them before Grandma and Grandpa visit next week." Adam nodded, moving to the floor beside the coffee table. As they sorted through family photos, Catherine noticed how her son had changed. He smiled more easily now, though there was a new seriousness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. The weekly therapy sessions were helping, but some experiences change a person forever. The doorbell rang, and Michael went to answer it. He returned with Tyler and his mother, Susan. The two families had grown close over the past months, supporting each other through the investigation and its aftermath. "We brought cookies," Tyler announced, holding up a container. Unlike Adam, Tyler had struggled more visibly with what happened, developing anxiety that made school attendance difficult. But today, he was smiling, his eyes brighter than they had been in months. "Perfect timing," Catherine said. "We were just looking at old photos." As the adults chatted in the kitchen, Adam and Tyler sat together in the living room, occasionally commenting on funny pictures from years past. Emily joined them, always happy for cookies and company. "My mom says we're brave," Tyler said quietly when Emily wandered off to get juice, "but I still get scared sometimes." Adam nodded. "Me too. Dr. Melton says that's normal, though. Being brave doesn't mean you never feel afraid." The boys fell silent, a shared understanding between them that needed no words. Their friendship had deepened through their shared experience, creating a bond that few could understand. In the kitchen, the parents discussed the upcoming community meeting. After the case became public, their small town had been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about child safety and the systems that had failed to protect the most vulnerable. A local child advocacy group had formed, with Catherine and Susan taking leading roles. "The school board approved the new safety curriculum," Susan reported. "They'll start teaching it next fall." Michael nodded approvingly. "And Pastor Wilson called yesterday. The regional church leadership has implemented new training requirements for all youth volunteers." Catherine glanced toward the living room, where the children were now laughing at an old Halloween photo. "It shouldn't have taken this to make these changes happen," she said softly. "No," Susan agreed. "But because of our boys, other children will be safer." Later that evening, after their guests had left, Catherine found Adam sitting on the porch swing, looking at the stars. She joined him, wrapping a light blanket around both their shoulders. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. Adam was quiet for a moment. "I was just thinking about how different everything is now." "Different good or different bad?" "Both, I guess." He looked at her. "I still wish it never happened, but I'm glad Marcus can't hurt anyone else." Catherine put her arm around him. "You know what I'm most proud of? Not just that you told us what happened, but that you thought about the other kids too." Adam leaned against her shoulder. "You always taught us to look out for others." They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies begin to appear in the gathering dusk. The journey wasn't over. There would be the trial to face, and the ongoing work of healing. But sitting there with her son, Catherine felt something she hadn't expected to feel 6 months ago: hope. The 4 words Adam had whispered that Sunday had changed everything, but they had also begun something new, a ripple effect of protection, awareness, and healing that continued to spread outward, touching lives beyond what any of them could see.